And welcome back to Ancient Geomancy for Contemporary Living with me, your host, Faye Semple. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you get all the information and videos as they go live. And hit the notifications button, and that way you'll know when I've updated a new video. So today I want to dive into a fascinating topic. So obviously, for those of you who don't know much about geomancy is basically, it really means divining the earth, and it is a way of working with the natural energy of place, the electromagnetic fields, the water, the light, to really ensure that we and the place can thrive in a symbiotic relationship where they're one with place. And this is much more than just decluttering your home and making sure, you keep your windows clean. Geomancy for me is about accessing this deep quantum consciousness fields that we have access to. And I very much believe that our ancestors used an organic technology using light, water, stone, sound to create and work with frequencies or vibrations of energy that enabled us to tap into quantum fields of information and then actually do something useful with that in our daily lives so that we could ensure that we were creating healthy people and healthy societies that really knew how to thrive in as a part of the rich tapestry of life on this earth. So the topic we're delving into today is, did our ancestors tap into the quantum universe through sacred sites, light, and cosmic consciousness? Now, for millennia, human beings have been drawn to sites like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, the Pyramids of Giza, Chaco Canyon, places where the stone and the earth really seem to whisper secrets of the cosmos. Now, these locations, they often align with celestial events like the solstices or the equinoxes, and they really give off, I think, a pulse of energy that modern pilgrims still feel, because the earth underneath its geology hasn't changed, settled over millions of years, but those frequencies are still there. So I propose that our ancestors really weren't just stargazers or mystics. I propose that they understood on an intuitive level the quantum nature of the universe using light and water and the Earth's natural electromagnetic variations as tools to connect to a deeper universal consciousness. Now, today, science tells us that the universe operates on quantum principles. Particles can be entangled across vast distances. Light can carry information in a way that defies classical logic. And really, we know that matter vibrates with unseen energy, or it is unseen energy. Now, our ancestors didn't have the language of quantum mechanics, but the way that they built and revered sacred sites suggests that they sensed these forces. Could they have harnessed light as a bridge to what we might call quantum consciousness? Could they have amplified water and the electromagnetic anomalies that we find near fault lines? Now, let's explore this as a sort of really a provocative possibility, I suppose. So if we look at sacred sites, and really cosmic alignment, I would argue that they're kind of a blueprint for accessing these consciousnesses. So sacred sites worldwide share a striking feature, and this is the precise alignment with cosmic cycles. Now, Stonehenge, their stones famously frame the solstice sun. And the Great Pyramid in Giza, the shafts point towards specific stars like Sirius and Orion's belt. And archaeoastronomers can see these as calendars or ritual markers. But there's a lot more to consider than this. It's much more than just stargazing, because now light is becoming important. Light, whether it's sunlight, starlight, or moonlight, really plays a starring role in all these kind of places. On key dates, beams of light pierce through openings, or they cast shadows that transform the site into really what is a living map of the heavens. Now, modern quantum physics reveals that light isn't just energy. It's a carrier of information. and it's capable of linking distant systems through quantum entanglement. So what if the ancient builders saw light as a conduit, a way to tune into the universe's hidden rhythms? They could have been, so for instance, at Stonehenge, the solstice rays might have been much more than just symbolic. They could have been a trigger, aligning human perception with quantum frequencies. Now, this idea really echoes through the quantum concept of coherence, where systems synchronize in order to share information instantaneously, regardless of distance. So at that moment, we can access information from anywhere in the cosmos, regardless of where we are. So our small and almost, insignificant lives on Earth as individuals mean that we can access this huge consciousness, this field of quantum consciousness. So I want you to imagine standing at a sacred site during a solstice or an equinox, and the first light of dawn is streaming through a stone window or through some stones. In that moment, the interplay of light and shadow might do more than simply mark time. It could be a shift in consciousness. Now, quantum optics shows us that light can interact with matter in extraordinary ways, creating entangled states, and it can amplify subtle symbols. So perhaps our ancestors used these light-driven moments to access what we would now call quantum consciousness, a state really where the mind resonates with the universe's underlying fabric. And this is not just pure fantasy. As recently as 2024, researchers in Shanghai University speculated that infrared photons in the brain might entangle neurons, and hinting the sort of at this quantum basis for consciousness. So sacred sites bathed in precisely timed light could have been amplifiers of this process, because their architecture is designed to focus light like a lens focuses a beam. And we also know what light enters the eyes and it hits a nerve ending at the back of the eye, which is essentially a nerve ending from the brain. So we know that photons then almost come into direct contact with the nerves of the brain. So the ancients may not have known about photons or entanglement, but they could have felt the effects through visions and insights, or a sense of oneness with the cosmos. And through rituals, really through rituals, they're really tied to these illuminated alignments. They would have used them at that moment to bathe in the light and access these quantum fields of consciousness. Now, the other thing we need to look at, so we look at sacred sites, is how they align to the cosmos and light. One of the other things we need to look at is water. And now water is another constant at sacred sites. So we've got springs that bubble up near the Delphi Oracle. We've got rivers that flow through Machu Picchu. We've got wells dotted in the landscape of Celtic holy places. We know that underground water is present at a lot of sacred sites, either in underground lakes or underground rivers. Now, science now shows that water isn't just the sort of giver of life, it's another quantum player. And studies suggest that water molecules can inhibit quantum coherence, and they can hold and transmit information through hydrogen bonds. So the way that water is structured in its molecular structure means it holds its coherence, and it can also transmit information. So we're very familiar with water. I think more people are familiar with water having memory, and we can imprint it with information, but it can also pull information and transmit information to us. So near fault lines, where many sacred sites sit, water interacts with the Earth's crust, and it can potentially pick up on electromagnetic signatures. So again, what if ancient people sense this? You know, a sip from a sacred spring or a baptism in a holy river might have been more than just a symbolic cleansing. It could have been a way to ingest or interact with quantum information carried by water. And because we know that water can communicate across distance, that information will then go into the structured water that is in our body. We are full of structured water that holds quantum coherence. So combined with light, water might act as a medium, amplifying the connection really between human consciousness and the universe's quantum fields. So the reverence for living water in so many of our ancient traditions really hints at an intuitive grasp of this deeper role that water plays. And then we also need to look at fault lines and the Earth's electromagnetic frequencies. So many sacred sites lie near geological fault lines where tectonic places churn and crack the Earth where they butt up against each other. Now, these zones are hot spots for natural electromagnetic field variations. And this, it's generated by piezoelectric effects in quartz-rich rocks that compress and then release the energy. So we would measure that with an EMF meter above ground. We would recognize that where we don't have geological fault lines, the energy is fairly stable. Where we have geological fault lines, it can spike and it can be really magnified. So modern equipment, as I say, detects spikes in EMF at these locations. And these spikes are often linked to reports of altered states of consciousness from euphoria and visions. There are also at times where people see things like balls of light in the sky, unidentified flying objects, so that and it could be that which could be plasma created from these fault lines, but we recognize that sacred sites being near geological fault lines with water and light have these effects. So quantum physics also ties electromagnetic frequencies to subtle energies on really on matter and energy itself. So electromagnetic fluctuations really influence quantum states. And they potentially enhance entanglement or coherence. So our ancestors, basically, to put that into layman's terms, our ancestors might have felt this charge in the air, like a tingling, a hum, and then a call to build special places where this earth pulse is strongest, because we're able to access these quantum fields of information, which give us a better understanding of, our place in the universe, our life, how to thrive, all kinds of information. So at sacred sites, light, water, and electromagnetic activity converge. And this really creates a kind of natural technology or a natural laboratory for quantum exploration. Now, a priestess in Delphi, might have inhaled, fault line vapors, the sulfur from the fault line and the Earth's activity there. A shaman might chant with sound under the solstice moon. And all these acts, although they can be perceived as sort of primitive and naive, they have been ways to ride the Earth's quantum currents in expanded awareness. And I think many of us feel the truth in that we recognize that ancient people understood how to access these quantum fields in a way that perhaps that we've lost. And although modern life has really advanced and we have great healthcare, I think many of us are feeling a deep connection to the earth and also a deep disconnect to our own spirit. So we've lost this connection to the earth. We've lost recognizing how the materials of light and soil and rock and water and birdsong and sound, we've sort of lost the understanding that these are an organic technology, and we've lost that connection through them. By losing that connection to them, we've kind of lost connection to our own spirit, which brings me round to this third point, that these things are in fact a lost technology of the spirit. So if we know that water, light, and location and things like the quality of rocks are this sort of tool to accessing quantum consciousness, if that theory holds, then sacred sites weren't just places of worship. They were technologies of consciousness, engineered with an instinctive understanding of quantum principles. So light aligned their mind with the stars, water carried the earth's secrets into their bodies, and the EMF activity tuned their senses to the planet's hidden vibrations. Without microscopes or equations, our ancestors may have mapped the universe's quantum nature through experiences, and just we are now left with these monuments as proof, or I would argue an invitation that we need to relearn this knowledge. Because I believe through these technologies, we will have access to different power sources, generation of plasma, working with light in a different way. We're very dependent, on sort of modern technology of electricity and various things that could potentially, limit how much we can expand before we're forced to contract. And there are agendas in the world at the moment about sort of climate and global warming and climate change and resources that are essentially forcing us to play small again in our lives and our exploration of what it means to be human. So I think there's a lot we can explore in this ancient technology. Of course, you could argue this is all speculation. And to a degree, we're right. There are no ancient texts that speaks of entanglement or photons, but the precision of ancient sites, their enduring power, their continued draw, and their alignment with the forces, their alignment with the cosmos and the presence of particular types of rock, and the presence of underground water, we're only now quantifying that these things are more than really coincidence. We recognize now that there was a worldwide symbol of ancient sites that worked with rock and light and water and sound. And that this society, this technology is probably far more ancient, or in fact is far more ancient than we give it credit for. And a previous ancient civilization that we have, no knowledge of, we've lost the memory of, had this technology down as a way to really power their society, the way we use nuclear power, the way we use electricity. But it was also a way of making sure that we were aligned with the spirit of the earth and the spirit of the consciousness. So, our ancient ancestors didn't need words like a photon and entanglement and quantumness because they lived that reality. They lived a different reality and a different mindset about the world than we do, by using light as a bridge and water as a vessel, and using the Earth's own energy really as a tool to touch really the infinite in a way perhaps that we have lost nowadays. So, next time you stand at a sacred site, watch the light play with the stones, feel the waters pull beneath your feet, and really listen for the earth's quiet hum. And these things will be more pronounced where that site is aligned to. If it's aligned to the solstices or the equinox, if it's aligned to the lunar standstills, that's when the energy of that site is going to be most powerful. It's written into how it's mapped out. So if you visit these sites, at these important dates, you might just glimpse what your ancestors knew, that the universe is alive with consciousness, and it's just waiting for us to remember. It's waiting for us to explore this ancient organic technology so that we can thrive in harmony with the earth. We can work in alignment with the energy of place, so that where we live, where we work, and where we worship are embedded, they're enmeshed, and they're in the rich tapestry, the fabric of life, and that we're not sort of sitting on top of that tapestry, making it threadbare and pulling away at the threads until we've ruined it. So thanks very much for joining me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you again next time for another episode.